Lockdown this time is different to last time. Inquiry levels is what we want to talk about from prospective tenants and prospective buyers. Stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, episode 503. Buyer inquiries, tenant inquiries. Let's talk about are they up? Are they down? What's the general? Are they different to what inquiries were 3-4 weeks ago prior to lockdown? And are they different to what they were 12 months ago? This morning's show will give insight to anyone who's thinking about renting a property right now, buying a property, selling a property. What are the day-to-day, call after call conversations going like? And myself, Mark, and let it rip. So, Mark, let's start with tenant inquiries. That's always sort of rentals isn't always spoken about with a lot of people. So let's give it the time and day on this morning. This morning only.
Yes.
I'm kidding. Let's go. Let it rip. Are properties being leased? Are properties being leased? Are people even looking? Like, are we just sitting here twiddling our thumbs, looking at our nice cars as real estate agents in our fancy suits, watching Lux Listings Australia?
We should do a show on Lux Listings Australia as well. But giving it our review. But look, there's a rate. We should do it. We should be reviewing it.
We should review it.
We should.
Or not going, that doesn't happen. They should say this dialogue. Oh, the Northern Beaches twist on bullshit. The eastern suburb. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So. There's a rate of amount of properties. What was that? Yeah. There's a rate of amount of properties that actually get rented out in Sydney, in the Northern Beaches, in DY. So there's it's like a flow rate or a take up rate or internally as an agency we call it properties leased for the month, right? So there's always this churn. Now what's interesting is just to give you a reference, and I guess we need to get a reference from somewhere, but our office is a really good benchmark because we do we're probably the number one leasing agent for residential out of 200 agencies on the Northern Beaches. So we manage about 4,000 or 5,000 tenants. We manage about a bucket load of landlords, a lot of properties. So properties-wise, we're sitting between 1,600 to 1,800 amount of properties under management, and we're watching what these guys are doing at the moment. Bottom line is we rented 63 properties last month. Bottom line, we're almost halfway through that this month. That is sitting at about the same rate of properties being leased this time last year and the same time the year before and the year before that. So, sorry, this time last year it was slightly less. People were a little bit more sensitive, but certainly the 2 years before were the same rate of leasing. So, I guess we can confidently report to you today. If you've got any questions, make sure you're on Novak and live. You can ask questions. But we can confidently say to you today the leasing rate, the flow rate of properties being leased, the flow rate of tenants taking up property is healthy.
And very similar to even just last month as well. So you can really see why. Because there's people in the world who are, or locally, who are like, why are real estate agents still able to work? Why are they essential and my business is not? And you can really see that there's a lot of people who are moving not because of just let's go from this side of the beach to that side, or let's change suburbs. A lot of it is through the necessity or that pipeline already in motion. It would be an impossible industry to sort of just stop. You would almost have to give it 3 months 6 months lead time to say no more real estate. So you can't really close it because most of the deals that we've done this month, they've already moved out of a property. They've already sold their property. So you can imagine the just the anarchy if we weren't able to operate and show properties. Yes, a lot of it has changed. There's a lot more cautious with it during COVID, a lot more sensitivity around people with giving access to their property. Yes, all that's taken into consideration, and we do just got to sort of work around it and work with people. But when it comes to people looking at home, online web traffic is up dramatically. It almost probably reminds me a little bit of Christmas time, where web traffic goes up because people are at home. You sort of seen the back end save and shares go up even more so because a lot of people don't necessarily know that real estate is open, just like a lot of agents close during Christmas. And I know we're very known for being open, and we do a lot of deals as a company. I know myself, I've always done a lot of deals around that time frame as well. And I think now's a little bit like that. And then we did see in the first sort of lockdown, let's say a year ago, there was a pretty big drop off in inquiries for that week or two, and then it sort of picked up. But this time we didn't even have that because I think it's more so people know what to expect. They're either, some people are still in the same working conditions as a year ago. They never went back. So business hasn't changed for them. A lot of people didn't, when things did open up the past sort of, what we had about 6 to 9 months really with no lockdown. A lot of people didn't then just start going out and partying and socializing. They kept to the same pretty small social circle. So a lot hasn't changed. So we didn't really see any drop off. It was really almost like the light switch going on and off. You could do this, now you can't. And the wheels kept turning.
I think it's interesting that how Melbourne's locked down real estate harder than how they've locked it down in Sydney. I think in Sydney we've had a precursor before. We knew how we went with leaving real estate one-on-one inspections to be allowed. Whereas I think Melbourne, they can't have one-on-one inspections, and they didn't in the last lockdown. I don't think that's making the Melbourne agents very happy, and I think it raises a question to Sydney. But we sort of haven't actually had, to my understanding, much transmission through the real estate industry. I don't think it's certainly not like hospitality getting the numbers through the door.
Yeah, and a lot of the transition we've had, it's all been, I think, linked to the people who were infected where it wasn't random. But that was the difference. Melbourne went to that stage 4 where there were no one-on-ones. So a lot of agents were implementing Zoom phone calls, showing people property. That some just did nothing, and some really excelled because they still. We spoke to someone last month, or we spoke to someone from Melbourne, and they just adapted, did it. They still got deals through. People had to buy. Some people had to sell. Yeah. We're pretty fortunate that we've at least been. I know as a commercial agent, well, we don't do open homes. So nothing really changed on the fundamentals. Residential, they've had to tweak to a lot more buyer appointments rather than your big open homes. But as Lisa says, she's having more inquiries than ever now as well. Does inspections 5 minutes, sort of in and out. And then you get people through.
People are respectful. They're not touching handles. They're not opening doors. They're in and out quickly. It's logistically a nightmare. It's added a lot more workload to all agencies, but we're just happy that we can do it.
Yeah, exactly. You'd rather do the work than not being able to. So a lot of our agents, what they're doing is they'll book out an hour at that property, but have 5-minute quick walkthroughs with people, like a break, then a new people in, and people have been really, and that's to the vacant properties and the people who are allowing us to go through as long as we follow all guidelines. And then there's some properties where we're just building a list to basically view when appropriate, where the occupant may be elderly or they just don't feel comfortable with strangers going through their property, and you just got to respect that. So it just is what it is. But the message out there, a lot of people are inquiring online and a lot of people are still calling.
Yep.
In that residential market.
Absolutely. So buyer inquiries, what are you seeing there, Mr. Burgio?
With commercial, commercial market's been very opposite to residential. Still very slow. It's been a big drop off just in the last 2 weeks. It's almost unlike residential. The lockdown basically, it's almost, it really turns off. So unless it's outbound, to put it in aspect, if I was getting 40 inbound calls, it's dropped to 10. So it just means I pick up the outbound calls to have conversations with people, but it's good to track that as well. So every time I sort of feel like a bit of momentum coming back to commercial, we've had the lockdown. I first felt momentum coming back from March lockdowns, end of November, early December. Then we had the Christmas lockdowns, started to get some really good momentum the last 2 months and then now as well. So it's just a much bigger difference in sentiment. Even if you look at the relief, like the relief is on land tax for owners. So there's a lot of commercial buyers who they don't pay land tax if they're buying strata shops. So a lot of the feedback I'm getting from people is, why would I buy an investment now? Even if it is a 6-7% return, where I could not. One said like a 7% return sounds good until the business is locked out and I can't enforce rent. I can't kick them out. It's not like residential where I can still lease the property to a new tenant in 2 weeks. So a lot of people have just come out of the market and just waiting. But when we've had good stock with a tenant-proof, with a lockdown-proof business, medical, lawyers, stuff like that, it's flown out the door.
All right, so buyer and tenant inquiry levels during lockdown, the answer is, in conclusion, signing off, the answer is, are we more than previous to lockdown, same than previous to lockdown, or less?
Definitely more than previous lockdown activity.
Sorry, than prior to the lockdown. So are the May levels of inquiry matching the July levels of inquiry for a week?
It'd be pretty similar or less, but not by much. It's still, I don't think anyone would be complaining.
So we haven't. So we're not quite back to where we were, but not far off on tenant inquiries, on buyer inquiries. But what I can definitely say, guys and girls, is that people searching online, it has gone ballistic on our social media, and it has gone ballistic on realestate.com and domain.com.au by way of searches. People are positioning themselves and doing their due diligence online a shitload more than what they were 2 or 3 months ago.
Definitely. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Bye, Mr. Burgio. Everyone have a great Saturday.